So we enter into our first afternoon in our 2-day session here. And hope everybody's enjoying their practice and settling down, getting those cobwebs a little thinner, maybe some space in the mind. It's quite refreshing, isn't it? Yeah. So I invited everyone at the beginning of this session to connect with the elements as a path of practice, and as a kind of a guidepost if you find yourself, over cogitating and getting lost in thought, just to return to the elemental nature of our existence. So I want to appreciate that dimension here, as we understand it in the Dharma as well. So I thought we'd spend a little time and just appreciate these 5 elements. Right, so we'll do a little awareness practice. So we'll start with earth and just extend our awareness to the earth, the ground outside. Mountains, we're very close to the mountains. Everything is resting upon the earth. Birds, not so much. Planes, not so much. Yeah, but 99.99999% of things resting upon the earth. So now, feel yourself to be in contact with that earth right now. Your seat, your legs. It's present right now. Now turn your attention to your body, which is also made up of earth. Okay, I just looked up before my talk. We have 5 main minerals and 72 trace minerals in the body. Calcium, phosphorus, magnesium. Yeah, I'm forgetting the other 2. Does anybody know them off the top of your head? Sulfur might have been one.
Thinking of salt or something.
I think that's maybe more of a trace. I don't think that was.
I guess iron and zinc.
Huh. Actually, that's not ringing a bell, but we'll have to do a, footnote after the talk and look it up. But yeah, so quite a lot of minerals, 72 trace minerals, 5 major, minerals in quantity in this human body. The bones, right? Bones, quite a bit of earthy material right here. Yeah, so feel into that. Now water. Turn our attention to the water that's in the external environment. We've had these torrential rains here over the last week or so, maybe last month or so. Yeah. The water that comes out of the faucet, the water we use to drink, the water we bathe in, the water we cook with. And now take it in. 60% of the body is water, on average, according to my research. 60%, even 22% of the bones is water. So much of this being here is that water element. So let's tune into that, the fluid dimension of your body. Fire, sun, the main source, this huge, massive conflagration going on 93 million miles from us. So intense that it can heat up this planet. We can feel it just intensely on our skin. The fire we make to cook our food. Now take it in. These engines of energy, our cells, our mitochondria, producing all this energy, processing the calories that come in, maintaining this 98.6 degree temperature. Tune into that. Air, the wind, the breeze, that atmosphere that the birds are flying through, the atmosphere that the planes are flying through. Ever present. There's no vacuum. Out in space there's a vacuum, but nowhere in here, in this ecosphere. Appreciate the air, the wind, the breeze. So powerful it can be, and also subtle. Now take it in, the breath. We can't do without the circulation of air for very long, a matter of minutes. Constantly, continuously circulating through our bodies. And space. And some traditional formulations don't talk about space as an element, but we need space for all the other stuff to unfold in, take place in, intermingle in. So it's everywhere, it's this whole dimension. It's even what's connecting me and you. We talk about the space between us. And sometimes our orientation is on how there's a distance between us. But the space between us is what connects us. It's an element that is connecting us and connecting all beings. How about inside? So, we now know from our electron microscopes that 99% of every atom is actually space. You look at the mass of an electron and a neutron and a proton, 99% is space. So 99% of us is actually space. I read this factoid that if we, boil down all of the real mass of the world, so all of the neutrons, protons, and electrons, of the entire Earth and atmosphere down, it would be the size of a sugar cube. Wow. So, yeah, just tune in for a moment to that internal space. Earth, water, fire, air, and space. That's us. That's us. You bring this overlay of thought on top of this just beautiful dance of the elements. This overlay of thought that creates problems and complications out of this basic elemental nature. But this basic elemental nature is very profound. It goes even deeper than the words that I've just said about it, the descriptions that we apply to it, the feelings we have about it. It goes even deeper. We have a teaching in the Zen tradition I want to share with you. So Tozan was studying with Uman, and Tozan asked him, "Who can hear the teachings of the insentient?" Uman said, "It can be heard by the insentient." Tozan asked, "Do you hear it, Master?" Uman said, "If I heard it, then you wouldn't hear my teaching." Tozan answered, "That being the case, then I don't hear your teaching." Uman replied, "You don't even hear my teaching. How could you hear the teachings of the insentient?" Tozan was enlightened on hearing this and responded in verse, "Wondrous, marvelous, the teachings of the insentient are inconceivable. If you listen with the ears, you won't understand. When you hear with the eyes, then you will know." So this gets it gets a little zen-y, in the latter phases of the conversation. But the primary question was one that actually was quite vigorously debated in the early years of Zen, so in kind of the 6th, 7th centuries, 8th century, early 8th century in China. And there was actually a school of Zen that said the insentient, so the rocks and the tiles and the bridges, did not possess Buddha nature and didn't manifest Buddha nature. And then there was a school that affirmed that they did. And this conversation takes place in the period where it was in some, contention amongst teachers. Now, which school does this teaching, come from? It's the latter. The insentient, manifests Buddha nature. Right? Uman says quite clearly, it can be heard by the insentient. The Dharma of the insentient. He's saying, a number of things, another of subtle layers, that I want to appreciate with this teaching. So the insentient is preaching a dharma, it is, but it can't be heard by our normal way of conceiving, okay, our normal way of hearing, if you will, our normal way of understanding. It just simply can't. So that's why it can only be heard by the insentient, because if you're operating with normal sentient consciousness and the mental formations that come along with them, then you're not in the order of consciousness to hear the Dharma of the insentient. You could even say that the order of consciousness which makes a distinction between the sentient and the insentient, and then considers the sentient to have Buddha nature and the insentient to not have Buddha nature, is itself fundamentally incapable of perceiving the Dharma of the insentient. Okay. All things possess Buddha nature. Have you ever gone for a hike and just spent time, just really communing with a rock or a tree? At this stage in our cultural evolution, most of us have done mushroom trips with exactly this experience and probably in direct contact with the Dharma of the insentient, with that kind of technological assistance, psychoactive assistance. But you don't need that. You don't need that. The samadhi that you develop in Zazen very clearly experience it today. You may regularly experience it in your life. You're going into the backyard here on the farm and realizing absolutely the flowers are alive, the stones are alive, the planks of wood are alive, the logs in the zendo are alive. They're not inert, which is what we, in some senses, are conditioned to believe that they're inert. Certainly our culture, reinforces that they're inert, but they're not. They're just, vibrating with life. Tozan had a deep realization with this conversation with Uman as he kind of went back and forth, and Uman really was able to open a doorway in his mind about this. His inquiries were quite, sincere. What is this? Oh, well, if the insentient can't hear it, then I couldn't hear you. Well, then I can't hear you because I can't hear that. He really questioned it. He really questioned it, and he was able to, have those turning words work on him. Well, subsequent to this, he actually had an even deeper realization. I think he was walking over a bridge, but in any case, he saw his own reflection in water. And to see himself, in a sense, alive within the water element was just, it's the Dharma of the insentient. Something in that experience, really opened them up to it. There's a story of another teacher who, in these years when it was disputed amongst the Zen schools, actually preached the Dharma of the insentient to his Sangha, and he was belittled by many of the people who were in the other school. And he just went off and he said, I'm just going to go, and we have our new Zendo puppy who's come here. So he went to preach in the mountains. He just went off by himself, and he said, I'll preach to the stones and I'll listen to the stones. And he did. And he saw the stones nodding to him and just interacting with him. And some of us may have had similar experiences. So this is the quality of mind, that we really need to cultivate to get out of our self stories, just our self-centeredness. That's what causes all of these problems, this self-centered view of our own experience, of the world. No, listen to the Dharma of the insentient. It's not conceivable, it's not a thought, it's not an idea, it's not a quality. And it's deeper than that. And it's present right now in all of us. Just like we did at the beginning here, to really understand that all those elements are permeating and interacting, dancing within us. How can we be separate? So I ask you, is this the Dharma of the sentient or the insentient? Listen. Look. Yeah, let's enjoy our practice for the rest of the day. As we continue to sink in, become absorbed in your own samadhi. Okay, let whatever unfolds, unfold.